Bull have been swapping and dropping their drivers since their very first season in Formula One. This is nothing new to them. In Red Bull's first season, 2005, David Coulthard was actually the constant in that team, but the swap for the second seat was already made before the season even began. So Christian Klein and Vitantonio Liuzzi knew that they would be sharing that second seat. Christian Klein did races 1 to 3, Vitantonio Liuzzi races 4 to 7, and then this went back to Christian Klein. So Vitantonio Liuzzi was out. However, this was not really a huge bombshell because it was agreed pre-season that they would both take part in at least 3 races. However, Christian Klein was the one that came out on top. 2006, David Coulthard was retained. However, Christian Klein was axed after round 17 due to poor performance, and he was replaced by Robert Doornbos. 2007 is a little bit wild. So Liuzzi participated in all of the races and Scott Speed through to race 10, and he was dropped due to poor performance, but also after an argument that he had with team principal Franz Tost. And the reason there was an argument is because at the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, Scott did actually aquaplane at turn 1, and Franz Tost was furious. He said to Scott, "What happened?" And Scott basically said, "What do you mean I hydroplaned? I wasn't the only car to do so." Scott had given Franz a few choice words, walked off. Apparently there was a physical altercation as well, though, where Tost had apparently with a closed fist punched him on his back, grabbed him by his neck, and Tost has denied this, but Scott Speed has spoken about this moment on the Beyond the Grid podcast, and essentially he said he was young and cocky, but this moment right there is why Scott Speed was axed and replaced by Sebastian Vettel. So in 2009, at Toro Rosso, Sebastian Buemi was the main driver, but Sebastian Bourdais was actually dropped due to the partnership not meeting expectations, and he was replaced by Jaime Alguersuari. And then, if you can believe it, we had a period of stability until 2016. So we had Daniel Ricciardo for the whole season and Daniel Kvyat to also partner him at the beginning, but he was dropped and replaced by Max Verstappen after the Russian Grand Prix. And the Russian Grand Prix, if you remember, is where Sebastian Vettel gave his torpedo comment to Kvyat. 2017, a little messy, stick with me. So we know Kvyat was demoted from Red Bull to the sister team, and he partnered Carlos Sainz. But after a crash at the Singapore Grand Prix, Kvyat was axed for Pierre Gasly. After that, Carlos Sainz actually left the team, so he wasn't axed in the way we're talking about here, but he left to go to Renault after a spot opened up there. Who replaced him, I hear you ask? Daniil Kvyat. Yes, that's right. But then we had the US Grand Prix, and Pierre Gasly couldn't make it due to a clash with the Super Formula Championship. So Brendan Hartley actually replaced Pierre. US Grand Prix happens, Daniil Kvyat is axed once and for all, and of course Pierre Gasly came back after the US Grand Prix, and they actually ended up finishing the season together. So Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley. 2020 for Red Bull started out with Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly. However, Pierre was dropped after only 12 races or demoted rather, back to the sister team and replaced by Alex Albon, who was promoted. And for Pierre, it was a performance/pressure thing. There was a lot to live up to, and the team also said they wanted to evaluate Alex to see who would partner Max Verstappen in 2020, which Alex got to do not before being dropped in 2021 to test and reserve driver. However, that wasn't necessarily a mid-season thing. It happened at the end of the season. In 2023, Nyck de Vries partnered Yuki Tsunoda at AlphaTauri after Nick did impress in Monza 2022 with the Williams. However, Nick's performance was lacking and he was struggling, so he was axed and replaced by Daniel Ricciardo, who was waiting in the wings as a Red Bull reserve. At one point, Liam Lawson did also replace Daniel Ricciardo after Daniel broke his wrist. However, I don't call that a true swap in terms of a performance swap. And in 2024, we saw Daniel Ricciardo being dropped from VCARB, the Racing Bulls, after a unsuccessful return. Essentially, Red Bull were trying to test to see if he could actually replace Sergio Perez in the main team, but they did drop him and replace him with Liam Lawson, who partnered Yuki Tsunoda. And that brings me to 2025. So it looks like we will see a straight swap between Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. So Yuki being promoted to the Red Bull seat to partner Max Verstappen, and Liam Lawson being demoted to the VCARB or Racing Bulls to partner Isaac Hadjar. Swap and drops since the beginning.